And we are live. What's going on YouTube Live? It's your boy Billy Rowe. Today is Wednesday. I'd like to welcome you to the first row. If it is Wednesday, you should already know what that means. It's time for the Wednesday words. That's Wednesday word. Jumping straight into it. Tonight's topic is mobility. As always, I like to explain what I mean by my topic. What do I mean when I say mobility? Well, what I mean is simply the importance of keeping yourself in a mobile state so that you have the ability to accomplish or to achieve the success that you are pursuing in life. So when I'm talking about mobility, really I'm talking about the fluid nature of our journey through life to achieve the goals that we set for ourselves. And so tonight I got 3 tools for you that I want to share with you for the first row when it comes to mobility. These are the tools that I thought kind of jumped out to me when it came to dealing with mobility and making sure that I'm constantly pushing and striving to achieve the goals that I set for myself. So I hope you guys are ready for tonight. We're jumping in rapid fire. Starting off, tool number 1, the very first tool that came to mind and I felt was important to share when it came to mobility was flexibility. So why is flexibility important? And what do I mean by flexibility? What I mean is being open and willing to change with the demands that success may call for you to, or may call you to have to meet. So that's what I mean by flexibility, is being open, and not just open to the demands that are going to be required to achieve success, but willing to meet those demands. And I'm going to say a little aggressively head on as those demands come to the table. And so there's some areas that flexibility helps us. And so when I started thinking about this particular tool, I kind of was shifting back and forth between like our physical flexibility when you're in gymnastics or when you're working out or when you're doing whatever you may be doing that's physical, and having the ability to be flexible and pliable so that you're not pulling muscles, creating injuries and so forth. So I kind of broke down how we achieve flexibility in our mobility. How we achieve that in 3 different stages. The very first stage is stretching. So just like a gymnast will go in and they will do these different types of stretches, and they'll do them regularly. It's almost like it's a part of their workout. They will stretch, they'll make sure that they're limber and that they are expanding. So like if you want to get to the goal of achieving the splits, then you're going to have to push yourself to get there if you're no longer flexible to be able to do the splits. And so that stretching, when it transitions over to being mobile or having mobility to achieve your goals, what that really transitions to is us moving outside of our comfort zone in a more frequent manner. And so that is what stretching is when it comes to mobility. It's us moving outside of our comfort zone, being willing to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations. And what that does is it helps us get accustomed to the discomfort that can come with change. Because when you are going to be mobile, when you're going to have mobility, there's a certain sense of, or a certain level of agility that you have to have. You have to be agile to be able to make changes, sometimes on the fly. And so that's the first step within flexibility, is stretching, moving yourself outside of your comfort zone. The second step is after you get the stretching down and you're flexible to the extent that you want to be flexible, you need to work on strengthening. So it's not just enough to be able to, do the splits. If you're a gymnast, you have to also be able to do flips and tumbles and have balance and good core and all these other different things. And that's where the strengthening comes in. And so when we transition that from a mobility standpoint to success, what that strengthening aspect is the mental conditioning that is necessary to have flexibility. And so how do we strengthen that? How do we execute that? And really, I started looking at the things that I've done in my past where I found maybe I was struggling, or I was outside of my comfort zone, but I wasn't effective outside of my comfort zone. And what it really caused me to do or led me to do was always go back to the drawing board and get more information. And so how do we get more information? We get that through mentorship. We get that through reading. We get that through conversation. We get that through dialogue. We get that through reflection. There's tons of different ways that we can get additional mental conditioning, and it doesn't have to all be on our own. And so that second area of strengthening is what I call the growth zone. So first we move outside of our comfort zone. Then we move, now that we're outside of our comfort zone, where there's going to be the most discomfort, now we're moving into the growth zone. Similar to a workout. When you're, when you're lifting your arms up and down and there's nothing in your hands, it's kind of easy. You could do it for a long time. However, when you put two 20-pound weights in your arms, all of a sudden there's a distress that's placed on your muscles that causes them to grow. So that's the second part within flexibility, is the strengthening aspect, which I consider the growth zone. And then the third part of flexibility is the recovery. So after you get done stretching, after you get done strengthening your core and strengthening your muscles, and you've gone through this growth zone, you now enter into recovery. And recovery happens for me, it happens often in reflection. And what recovery does is it allows you to replenish the fuel that you burned off the energy that you burned off. It allows you to replenish the fuel from the energy that you burned off, in the first two sets where you were stretching and you were pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And then you're outside of your comfort zone and you're strengthening yourself, but you're using energy there. That recovery aspect, just like ice reduces the inflammation that your muscles may have and helps you recover from a workout and helps you recover from your injuries faster. That's what that recovery area is. And so what I deem that recovery area to be, because I'm dealing with the zones, the comfort zone, moving outside of it, the growth zone, growing within the strengthening area. The recovery zone really is the strategic zone. That is the area where you sit back and you reflect on the growth that you've gotten, the discomfort that you experienced in your ability to move outside of your comfort zone. And as you reflect on those things, you start gleaning the knowledge and the wisdom that you've had from the experience. And so I know that's a very broken down approach to flexibility, but that is the very first tool, is flexibility. And flexibility, in order to get to a flexible state, it requires you stretching, moving outside of your comfort zone. It requires you strengthening yourself and moving into a growth zone. And then it also is going to require recovery so that you can actually apply the things that you learned in the first two zones. So that's the first tool, flexibility. The second tool that I came up with in regards to mobility is movement is key. And I put movement is key, and then in parentheses I put to mobility. And it would obviously seem like that is something that is a given, that obviously if I'm talking about mobility, movement towards a goal, movement on your path, on your journey, then obviously movement is going to take place. But I feel like sometimes we get stagnant and we forget that in our pursuit or in our journey to success, that we need to be moving, preferably in the right direction. But if you're standing still, you're not moving at all. And this is where this tool really started to hit home for me, is because I started thinking about, just physics. And I'm not a science major by any means, so I might completely destroy this on my explanation. However, when we talk about physics, we talk about objects that are in motions, and how if an object is in motion, it takes an equal or greater force to stop that motion of that object. Well, it also talks about physics, about inertia, about the movement of an object through a space. And we all know that if you've ever pushed a car that has broken down, or whatever the reason, the engine is not pushing the car, and you've had to push the car, you understand that those initial first 3, 4, 5 steps of pushing that car are probably the hardest steps of pushing that car, because it takes a massive amount of energy to get something moving. And that is why I say movement is key to mobility, because once you get yourself moving and you've expended a massive amount of energy to be in a space where you're able to start moving, then you want to keep that movement going, because it's going to take less energy and less effort to keep that movement going. One of the other things I put here is that it's about kinetic energy. What movement does is it allows us to build up our kinetic energy, and that allows us to build up momentum, and we can use momentum to our advantage, whether it's physical momentum to our advantage or mental momentum to our advantage, or just that things are clicking and moving in the right pace. We can use that momentum to our advantage. And so what I thought about was when I play basketball frequently, enough to where people like to try to back me down in the paint, because I'm a shorter person. However, I'm a stocky person, so I'm pretty heavy. And there's been a lot of times where people who are either my size, bigger, smaller, doesn't really matter, people who are playing offense against me have thought that they are just going to run into me and move me off of a spot. And there's been a couple of times where a person has run into me and bounced off of me and fallen to the ground. And people are like, wow, that guy's really heavy, or he's really anchored. Well, I can take whether it's the skinniest person who has ever done this or the biggest person who has ever done this, with the concept of movement being key, with the concept of inertia and kinetic energy, meaning the energy that is being built up by the object that is moving through a space. A person who's like 3 feet away from me may not be able to drop their shoulder and knock me off my center. However, if the person starts running all the way from the other end of the court and they're coming for me and I don't move, I'm more than likely not going to be able to or take the brunt of that impact. They're going to move me off my spot, if not knock me to the ground and actually hurt me. So the reason movement is so key is because it allows us to build up that kinetic energy, whether it's mentally or physically. It allows us to build up that kinetic energy. So as we approach obstacles in our journey, we have enough driving force to drive through them. What typically happens is if you're taking a leisurely stroll towards your goals and towards your success, then when you get to something that is a challenge, you just, boom, you hit it and you're like, oh, wow, it's not moving. And then what happens is you stop. And once you stop that movement or that movement, your mobility now is going to require an additional amount of energy to get going again. So that's tool number 2. Movement is the key to mobility. And the last thing I got here is when you actually combine the first 2 tools, when you combine flexibility with movement, what you get is it allows you to have the quickness to reinvent yourself on the fly, because flexibility is your ability to change, your ability to be pliable. But the movement while you're moving, if you have flexibility, just like an athlete who is flexible, you might be able to stop on one leg and pivot and go in a different direction. Whereas somebody who doesn't have the flexibility to move, to make that type of change, they have to intentionally maybe come to a stop, turn, and then generate another amount of force to get going again in the direction that they want to head. So those 2 tools work in tandem. And the last tool that I have for you when it comes to mobility, when it comes to mobility, is that doubt is powerful. That's tool number 3. And normally people take this, I'm taking a page out of my cousin Mo's notebook. Normally people take this on from a negative standpoint, that doubt is powerful. If you doubt yourself, then you're going to give up and that's what happens. But I'm actually taking doubt as a neutral tool. Doubt is powerful because if you choose to doubt what your capabilities are, yes, you will more than likely fail because of the fact you're doubting yourself and you're not going to have the belief to take the steps necessary to get to success. However, on the other side of that, you can make doubt your greatest ally. And some of the most heroic and inspiring stories that I have seen or even heard have been people who have been given terminal illnesses or been told by doctors, hey, you're never going to walk again. You might want to start getting used to this type of lifestyle. And the people who have doubted what the doctors have said, now take that with a grain of salt, but the people who have had the gall to doubt what the doctors have said about them never walking again, who still got up and went to physical therapy, who still pushed their bodies to the extreme just to stand up, who did those things because of their doubt and because of using doubt as an ally, they took actions that beat the odds of them never being able to walk again, of them being able to take care of themselves, of them being a success, of them being whatever it was that their goal was. They beat the odds because they used the power of doubt, taking what somebody else's story is and saying, you know what, that sounds great. And I'm glad you think you can apply that to me, but I highly doubt it because success is in my future. And so that is what the 3 tools are. Doubt is the third and the final tool. Is doubt is powerful. Always believe that there is a path for you to continue to travel towards success. And that is what, when we come up to our adversities or we come up to challenges and issues and obstacles, if we can just doubt that obstacle is the end of the path, then we begin to look for the roundabout, how to go around it, how to go under it, how to go over it, how to go through it. We begin to look for the solution. However, if we pull doubt and make it, instead of being an ally, an adversary, and we say, well, I don't think I can get through that, I don't see any other way around that, we begin to not take actions to even look for a solution. So those are the three tools that I came up with when it comes to mobility. That is what it is. Number one being flexibility. Number two, let me break down flexibility again. Flexibility being a three-stage process: stretching, moving ourselves out of the comfort zone. Number two part of that process is strengthening, moving ourselves in and through the growth zone. And number three being the recovery period, where we're moving through the strategic zone and reflecting on the information, knowledge, and wisdom that we've acquired in the other two zones. Number two being movement is key to mobility. Again, build up that kinetic energy, drive that momentum, so that way when you get to obstacles, whether it's you're a track star running and you got to jump a hurdle, or you got to be more powerful than a locomotive and run through a brick wall, do what you got to do to build up that kinetic energy, so that when you come to obstacles that are designed to stop you, you can barrel through them or make your way through that obstacle. And then number three, the third and final tool being that doubt is powerful. However, it is a neutral tool. Choose to make it your ally rather than your adversary. Use doubt to disprove what people have said your story is going to be in their minds. Use doubt to, even if you have to, sometimes use doubt to sway yourself away from that voice we have in our head saying, yeah, man, I can't do this. I don't know how. I'm going to have to doubt you. I'm going to have to doubt you so that I can focus on getting my flexibility right and keeping my mobility, keeping my movement going. So those are the three tools. I hope you guys have enjoyed them. As always with the Wednesday word, I like to share a personal story that kind of got me thinking about this concept and help me dive into the topic a little bit more deeply. And what I came to is kind of like something that I'm going through like currently almost right now. I'm in the midst of going through it and seeing what the solution is. But this story is really about why the first row was created and about my journey from having a goal of success of helping people. That's my overall journey goal, to help people, and how that started in the flexibility stage. Like, my goal was to help people, but unfortunately, the only people I was helping were people that I had everyday conversations with, that I had one-on-one conversations with. And so what I had to do was move myself through flexibility, move myself out of my comfort zone and stretch myself into areas that I wasn't comfortable in. So I went from these one-on-one conversations to having small group conversations, from small group conversations to, now that I'm comfortable with that, stretching myself again to putting content on Facebook, from Facebook to YouTube. And that just continues to grow and grow and grow. And each time, what I'm finding, in order to increase my flexibility, I have to take another step outside of my comfort zone and put myself in a place where, though I'm great and effective in the routine that I've established, the being outside of my comfort zone, it's kind of clunky. It doesn't always feel the best. It doesn't always feel like, oh man, this is humming along smoothly. So that's the first part of it. The second thing is with the mobility being life, movement being key to mobility, is I had to look at what it was that I was doing and start being more intentional in my own journey. So not just, oh, well, I have a video up and every once in a while I'll do a video, but really scheduling those videos that I was going to put up. And now I'm coming to a place in this journey of trying to keep my movement going, where technology is changing. And some of the changes that are happening in technology are making me have to shift and be flexible again, going back through moving out of my comfort zone, going through this growth zone that I'll have to go through again, and then reflecting through the strategic zone on how that is working. But because of technology changes that YouTube has coming down the pipeline, I'm going to no longer eventually be able to do one of my most I wouldn't say most powerful, but I would say it's definitely one of the most popular segments that I have on First Row, is the inner stations. So my inner stations and my inner station panels, because of technology constraints and the cost to overcome those technology constraints, I'm no longer going to be able to do that. And so it's easy to say, okay, well, now I'm at this place where I won't be able to do this, so I might as well stop, throw the baby out with the bathwater. However, I'm working to keep my momentum, working to keep my movement, and to build up my kinetic energy. So though I may not be able to get through this particular obstacle at this particular time, I will continue to do certain segments like the first row, the Wednesday word. We'll continue to do a couple of random segments where it's me until I have something that I can work around. And so I doubt that Intersations is going to be gone indefinitely, but it will have to be gone until I have a solution. And that is because I'm using that doubt as an ally. I'm saying, you know what? I doubt that either YouTube won't come up with a solution that works for somebody like me, or I doubt that I won't have the financial means to be able to get the technology that I need in order to continue to do a segment that I actually enjoy and I think a lot of people grow from as well. So that is where I'm at right now. And even though I've decided to end Intersations, my overall doubt of it, of the fact that YouTube's technology won't allow me to function the way that I'm accustomed to functioning, my overall doubt in that process drives me to restructure my time so that I can continue the momentum and continue the movement. So what I will be doing is instead of doing Intersations and I get a windfall of time back, I will be doing work on my book. I have a 3-series book that I'm working on that it's time to start putting that energy and that focus and that effort intentionally into that. And so that's where I'm at currently. Like, that's real time. It started last night when I was doing some stuff and realized that this is going to take place. And so I had to start becoming strategic and reflecting about what I've learned through this process thus far. How can I apply some of those lessons to where I want to go, and what the overall objective is to successfully help people grow. And so if a book is the next stage of that, then that's what the stage will be until either I can get to a place where I can do Intersations again on YouTube, or maybe I can get to a place where I have a channel that wants to bring on First Row and say, hey, we want you guys to have your growth content here. So that's what the Wednesday word is about. That's what mobility is about. Be mobile, be agile, be flexible in achieving your goals and setting your goals and achieving your path to success. It's a journey. The one thing I think that if there was a bonus tool that I could say is really it's a journey. And the hardest thing to do on a journey is to measure progress. It's the hardest thing to do. Like, I got a drive coming up to California and it's a 10-hour drive. And it is really hard to measure progress in the midst of driving 10 hours. Like, you can look at time and be like, okay, I've been on the road for 2 hours, but it's not until I get to California, and specifically Sacramento, that I feel like, wow, I made it. But I wasn't measuring all the progress that I was making on the way there. So that would be probably like my bonus tool is identify and give yourself credit when you are making progress to your journey. And if you run into a roadblock that causes you have to detour to go around or do whatever you got to do, realize that you're still making progress to your goal, even when you're on a detour. If the road is closed, we go around and we build a bridge. So that's what I got for you guys tonight. I hope you guys have enjoyed the Wednesday word. The next time that we will be live on the First Row will be on Tuesday, June 25th at 7 p.m. It will be the last Tuesday of the month. And the last Tuesday of the month, we like to do the Intersation panels. That panel will be on the peacock mentality, just showing off and showboating. So I think it'll be a good conversation that you will want to tune into, and maybe be able to gauge yourself if you have a peacock mentality, or if you're a true humble person who's not acting like you're humble, but you're really humble. That would be at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And gosh, I don't know why I just messed up on the math, but 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, June 25th. Other than that, I thank you guys for tuning in for the First Row. If you like this video, please share it. If you share this video, please like it. I'm happy to engage with you in the comments up to the first week of the video being released. I'm happy to engage with you in the live chat. If you watch via the live or the replay, I'm happy to engage with you. If you feel like this video or this content might inspire somebody, feel free to share it. Click the share button, click the like button. Make sure you support it and send some growth out to somebody else. If you felt like you've grown from it, share it with somebody else. Other than that, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Till the next time, I look forward to seeing you on the First Row coming soon. One love, peace, and God bless.